G'day guys, welcome to Talking Boxing, and what another big week it's been in boxing over the weekend. Always plenty to talk about, and tonight I've got a little bit of a special episode coming on. Apart from your talking points that you want to bring up, what I'm going to do tonight is obviously go over the all the latest news and the upcoming events. We're going to obviously cover the Nikita Zoo. Steve, what's his name? Ben Horn. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at my list here and I saw Stevie Spark there. He's not fighting Stevie Sparks, of course. So Nikita Zoo, Ben Horn, big show on Wednesday night, live on Foxtel. So we'll cover that. But what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to go over a lot of the up and coming Aussie fighters. I want to just give you my opinion of where I think they're at now. There's a few that'll be excluded. I mean, there's some that it's not a popularity contest, if that makes sense. So we're not going just to go to everyone's favorite fighters. These are the ones who I think are either on the cusp of getting into the ratings, or maybe they're just inside the ratings now, but also the ones that I think maybe just in the formative parts of their career, and I think will maybe challenge for titles down the track. So the way this works, I'm going to go on about some different topics that I've got, as I've just mentioned there. There'll be plenty of other stuff as well. We'll go over the upcoming schedule of the fights coming up across Australia. But this is your show. So the way it works, I want you guys to put in the comment section there any questions, comments, whatever it might be, put them in there. And as the show says there, it's Talking Boxing. So make sure you put them in. We're on YouTube or on Facebook. So either one, I think I'll see them both. I'm just looking now. So we've got, all right. So both Facebook pages, my own, the Boxing Deep Dive Show, and of course on YouTube. So get those questions in. As I said, we're going to go over the Nikita Zoo, Ben Horn show. We're going to do all the young Aussie fighters out there. Really want your opinion as we're going as well. So feel free to chuck an opinion in there. If I've missed a fighter, chuck him or her in there as well, and we'll go over it. So the first thing I want to talk about tonight is obviously Tim Tszyu. We did the Boxing Deep Dive show on Thursday night. It came out Friday. It was only released, I think, on the Wednesday. So it has been officially announced now. It's for Las Vegas. So thoughts on that, guys? The interesting thing for us was that it's going to be in January, which is really I suppose strange, I suppose you'd say. But, we again touched on it last week. Taszyu made a good point. Look, as Tim likes to be busy. I'm not sure whether it's a ploy by Charlo to maybe take Tim out of his comfort zone, because he knows he obviously fights pretty regularly. On the other hand, Tim's obviously had the hand operation or hands operation. So he's obviously got a bit going on as well. So I can sort of see both sides of it. I know Tim would love to fight, but I'm sure Glenn Jennings will be telling him, mate, just take the time, take it back a couple of cogs. Let's just take a breath, formulate the right plan going forward, let those hands heal a little bit better, and let's really start to focus on January. So, and look, it'll come around really quick. What are we at the moment? Mid-July, almost the second half, the last week of July. So time is getting on. So we'll start to move on. I think he'll probably go over to the States for probably 2 weeks. I'm probably thinking he'll go over there for, and then we'll see what happens after that. So yeah, interesting. If you guys want to put a comment in there about the fight, I can't wait. What do you guys think will be the result? I think obviously be a massive fight for Tim. Make no mistake, it's a bit like George Kambosos when he fought Teofimo Lopez. This guy is a real deal. This is not a manufactured champion. It's not a secondary title. It's not interim titles. There's none of this sort of stuff. This is the real, and it is the undisputed championship of the world. 4 belts at stake. So, yeah. So not going to get any harder for Tim. But look, obviously he's got the pedigree there. He's got the technique. He's got the skill. He's got the power. Maybe not the experience that maybe he could have had. But at the end of the day, when are you going to be prepared? A world title shot comes up. You have to take it. And I'm sure he'll fulfill his destiny. And look, if he doesn't, he's only a young guy. He can pick himself up pretty quick, and I'm sure he'll regroup. What have we got there? First comment there. Mammoth Task doesn't get much bigger. Yeah, well, we didn't think, mate, it'd probably get any bigger than George Kambosos when he fought Teofimo Lopez. But geez, I think I've said it before on either this show or one of the other shows that I think that if Tim can overcome not Lopez, Jamal Charlo. I think that it will actually surpass George Kambosos' performance over Teofimo Lopez, as good as that was. And we didn't think we'd be saying that 6 months ago because what a great effort it was. But if Tim can beat Charlo, this will be, I think probably rivaling the Jeff Horn Manny Pacquiao fight. Now, my opinion has always been that Jeff Horn's performance over Manny Pacquiao, whether you agree with the decision or not, that is the biggest win of an Australian in Australian boxing history. It's just my opinion. And again, put in the comments if you don't agree. But I think the status of Manny Pacquiao, what he'd achieved and what he went on to achieve, as I said, I don't think it matters whether you think Jeff Horn won. My opinion of that fight is it was a razor-thin decision. Sometimes you get the win, sometimes you don't get the win. In this case, Jeff got the win. You can't call it a robbery if it was a split decision and it was close. It's not a robbery. It's a close fight that didn't go for your guy. There's a difference. So, yeah, as I said, that is my biggest win ever. I think if Jeff Fennick had got the decision over Azuma Nelson, that would have been close. And look, you could probably throw a lot of others in there. I mean, there's put it in the comments if you can think of it. Any better performances? Obviously, George over Teofimo Lopez. Look, Jaya Pattaya, how does that rate? I'm not sure whether it rates as the biggest win of an Australian boxer because I don't think Breedis was of the caliber of some of those other guys. But the performance of Jai in itself, the heart, with the jaw, the just everything that he showed, the fortitude that he showed to get through that win. I think that the Jaya Pattaya fight would probably rival, again, Jeff Horn against Manny Pacquiao, but also maybe Jeff Harding against Dennis Andrees. They're probably the two fights that really come to mind. And I suppose, look, you can throw George Kambosos in there as well. I mean, he dominated the early portions of that fight. Lopez came back, dropped him in the 10th round, I think it was, and a bit like what Jeff Horn did when he came back against Manny Pacquiao. He actually won the remaining rounds, and that takes more than just talent. That is serious tick up. So, it's an interesting point. But look, I personally can't wait. I think it's going to be a ripper event. Of course, I'll be over there along with probably thousands or 1,000 other Aussies over there, and it should be great. And I'm hoping they bring out some packages. I'm sure they will. They all like to make a bit of extra coin on the side in these instances. So I would think that the team Zoo 2 will bring out some packages so that Aussies can go over there and be part of the whole mix and sit together and go to the weigh-in together and maybe see them train and all that sort of stuff. So look out for that. Long time to wait, of course. And I did mention on the show on Thursday night that the good news is that you've got 6 months to talk your missus into it and also to save. So plenty to look forward to there. So let us know your opinions on the Jamal Charlo Tim Tszyu fight. Awesome for Australian boxing. And what a year we've had. I mean, it started like the George Kambosos and Lopez fight. Who thought we could get any bigger? And here we are. It's going to be 12 months or 14 months later, whatever it's going to be. But we're actually going to have a bigger fight than that. So can't wait. And I think it's at the MGM Grand, which is awesome. I actually saw Jeff Horn fight Terence Crawford there, and there was a lot of Aussies there. It was just a really good atmosphere. Obviously didn't end well for Jeff in that fight, but it is what it is. So let's get on to the other talking points to get started. I'll go a little bit of international news on the weekend. Ryan Garcia, 6-round stoppage over Javier Fortuna. That was at 140. I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed by it. I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I just think, Ryan Garcia, he's got all the ability in the world. He's got the appeal. He's got the backing behind him. But I just think he's gone past the whole, what would you call it? The wholesome boy, the guy that everyone wanted to get behind. Now he's gone in that little bit of the, I suppose, for a better word, the wanker phase. He's starting to talk it up a lot. I know you've got to do that these days, but I don't know. For someone that hasn't really achieved anything, he does talk it up a little bit for me, Ryan Garcia. And, he's talking about fighting Tank Davis afterwards. Look, for what I've seen, I don't think he's a realistic chance of beating Tank. Look, who knows? I might be wrong. He's obviously got the height and reach and everything else, but at 140, who knows? But I was a fan when he first started out, Ryan Garcia, but the last couple of fights now, he's almost changed his persona. He's almost trying to do what Floyd Mayweather did when he went from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather. And I hope that's not the case, because when Floyd did that, he was in a position to do it. He's had the runs on the board. He had all the titles. Ryan Garcia hasn't done that. Now he's got the big tattoo. I don't know. He's trying to be a mix of Oscar and Conor McGregor / mixed in with Floyd Mayweather. I don't know. be yourself. I think he's got the appeal that if he looks even at his promoter in Oscar De La Hoya, Oscar was always real to himself. He was always his own man. He did it just with being a good person and being a great fighter. That's what he did. And I think Ryan Garcia can probably take a leaf out of his book. Don't go down the Mayweather route. And there's nothing wrong with Mayweather, but you're not Mayweather. So don't go down that route. Learn from your promoter and do it properly. So I did actually get a bit of a laugh before we move on with the Ryan Garcia thing. He said afterwards that if he fights Tank Davis, it'll be bigger than Crawford Spence. I don't know. It would be bigger than Canelo and Triple G. Look, maybe there's a case for that, but come on, Crawford and Spence is probably the biggest fight to be made this year. You fighting Tank's not going to surpass that. Then I think I read that he was talking that the pay-per-views for it would actually rival Mayweather and Pacquiao. Now, Ryan, I think you need a better advisor in your camp to just keep it real. You know, mate, you're not there yet. Yeah, you've got all the little girls chasing after you, and you've got 8 or 9 million people on Instagram that are following you. That's great. But just as they say, stay in your lane. What have we got here? I'm just looking for some more comments there, guys, because I'm trying to scroll in between both Facebook and YouTube because for some reason the Facebook ones don't come up. Not impressed. Good, but not at the level of Tank, Haney, Loma. Yep. Orteo. Yep. Sounds harsh, but he has limited tools compared to the top guys. And look, I think it's Rowan. I've really been surprised, even that he's got the new trainer in Goosen, that they haven't corrected the whole when he hooks, his chin goes up in the air. And if you're fighting someone like a Tank Davis, for instance, who can bang, Haney is a sharpshooter, Loma is a combination of both. Teofimo is probably not the fastest guy, but if he hits you, he's going to chin you pretty hard. So, yeah, that's one thing I'm surprised they haven't corrected because he just hasn't got that. He just tends to plant his feet. He puts his chin up in the air and away he goes. So, yeah, look, I think he's got a long way to go. And I would be hoping that his team would be telling him, look, just let's just because I think it was his first fight with Goosen as well. Let's just maybe get 2 or 3 fights under our belt. And then we can look at those types of guys and really push because he's still only a young guy. So, but yeah, I'm with you, mate. I wasn't impressed. He's got a long way to go. Remember, he got dropped by Luke Campbell. Now, Luke Campbell's obviously a really good fighter, Olympic gold medalist, but as a pro, not really around the mark. And he hit Garcia with a ripper shot and obviously put him down. Having said that, good chin to get up, but Campbell's not really a big puncher either. That was a Tank Davis. He ain't getting up from that. So anyway, so interested to hear your thoughts on that one. Now, on to Crawford Spence. We're talking about that. Just a quick one on that. I know they're talking about it's looking at October, November date at this stage. Not sure whether you caught that other dickwad, Rolly Romero. Holy shit, has there ever been more of a biggest wanker in this sport? The guy got absolutely chinned by Tank Davis. He still had the audacity to get out of the ring and say that he was winning the fight. Yeah, look, he won a couple of rounds, but Davis was just playing with him. You could obviously see that he was talking to the crowd. He was having a good time, and he was playing with Rolly Romero. And to get in there and say he's going to fight Errol Spence, I think he was saying at 147, mate, the sooner this guy goes away, the better. I would love to actually see him get in with another one of those guys and see him really get ripped to shreds again because, yeah, the guy's just a peanut. I've got no respect for him at all. Was the way he got dropped rather? Yeah, it was, mate. I think we're talking about. Assuming we're talking about Garcia, or are we talking about Romero? If it's Romero, yeah, he got dropped. He was out. He was out. So, and really, it was just a what was it? A check, right? Was it a right hand? I can't remember. I think it was a right hand. He dropped him with whatever it was. It hit him flush, caught him completely open with it. He wasn't ready for it. He's not in that league. He's a B grader. Probably a B minus, to be honest, is Rolly Romero, and that's probably even been kind. So, yeah, not a fan of Rolly Romero, and I hope, as I said, he fades away pretty quick. Look, normally we need those types of guys in it, but he falls in that category. He's not really even good at talking up, and he's not really a great fighter. He's somewhere in between, trying to be a bit of both. Mate, you're not that guy, okay? You're just not that guy. Just go back to the club shows on ESPN or whatever it might be, and go back to doing your thing. All right, now we're on to the big one this week. It is Nikita Zoo versus Ben Hall. I'm going to run through the card before I get into the young stars that we're going to look into, the up-and-coming Aussie guys and girls. So before I'll get into it in a minute, if you've got fighters you want me to review, chuck them in the comment section and I'll go over it. Nikita Zoo, Ben Horn. What are your thoughts? Now, from what I've seen from Ben Horn, he's a very rugged and game fighter. Unfortunately, he's not of the caliber of his brother Jeff. Now, let's face it, Jeff, great fighter, but he was pretty limited as well. He got through a lot by work rate, by obviously heart, had some skill, but he got through on a lot of aspects rather than just pure, pure ability. He got through on a lot of different stuff. Ben, unfortunately for what I've seen, look, he's a great guy. Unfortunately, in this case, I just don't think he has the natural ability. He can train all as hard as you want. I just don't think he has the ability to. I'm sure he's got the heart. I'm sure he's got the conditioning. Ben, what's his name? Glenn Rushton gets them all in very, very good shape, physically and mentally. They believe they can win, and you got to take your hat off to that. But I just when it boils right down to that pure ability, he just can't compete. And I really hope I'll be honest, the only way I think he survives past one or two rounds is if Nikita's team tells him to get the rounds in and box and maybe work on a few things they've been doing in training. Outside of that, I'm sorry, if Nikita comes out with the same attitude as he did against Mason Smith, I think I've said as well, he didn't really have much of a choice against Mason Smith because Mason Smith come out throwing bombs. So he almost had to get him out of there. I'm just hoping that, and I expect Ben Horn to box a little bit more, especially for the first round, round or two, and just box and move. But unfortunately, I just don't think he's even got the defensive capabilities of holding Nikita off. And I just think the fight probably goes as long as Nikita wants it to. Full props, I will say, to Ben Horn for actually getting in there. It takes a lot of heart out there, and I don't like the fact that there's a lot of smart asses out there and trolls, whatever you want to call them, liking to dig the boots in, because I think we should have respect for anyone that gets in there, especially when you're fighting a killer like Nikita Zoo. So full props to him. I hope he puts up a really good fight, but we have to be realistic, and I just think, as I said, I don't think the fight goes any longer than Nikita Zoo really wants it to. And what I'm expecting, I have no inside knowledge here. What I'm expecting is for the first two rounds that Nikita will box and just get his range and maybe practice a few things, maybe some combinations, defense, movement, footwork, whatever it might be, and work on that. And then he'll pick it up in the third or fourth round. And my personal opinion is that Ben will get saved in probably the fourth or fifth round by either his corner or the referee or whatever. But like his brother, he will go out on his shield. And, and that's all he can say is, again, full respect to Ben Horn for taking the fight. Let's get on to the rest of the card. The main support is Sam Goodman, Juan Miguel Alorde. Really, really tough fight for Sam. Alorde is obviously from a great fighting family over in the Philippines, 29-2. For the IBF Intercontinental Super Bantamweight title and the WBO Oriental Super Bantamweight title. Sam Goodman, look, he's got all the ability in the world, this kid. Look, he's still really raw and really young. But, I know they keep making, it's always about, and I wish they'd come up with a different line, of course, about the supporters. We all know you've got great support, or he's got great supporters. I want to know more about the guy himself and get a bit more in I think Ben Damon just needs to maybe get a different set of questions, and it just seems to be the same thing over and over. He always asks about his supporters, and that's great. We all know he's got heaps. I want to find a little bit more out about Sam, but it looks like a good young guy, very, very confident, and I'm sure he'll do the job over Juan Miguel Alorde, but it will not be easy. I mean, you're looking at Alorde, as I said, he lost a couple of fights ago for the WBO World Super Bantamweight title. He was stopped in 4 rounds by Emmanuel Navarrete, so no disgrace in that. That was actually three years ago. He hasn't fought since October 2020 when he came back and won only a 6-round decision. So it's probably a really good time for him to actually fight Alorde, being Sam Goodman. So so as I said, 31 fights. His other loss, I'll just go back, was against Jerry Guevara at the Mandalay back in 2011. So I'm trying to see how old he's actually 35. So look, really, really good fight for Sam Goodman. Perfect timing, and again, really good for No Limit to put him in with this guy at this time. I think it's a really good decision to step him up to this sort of quality opponent at this stage of his career. The other one I saw, this is a good one. This is Darragh Foley and Hunter Inoue. I think not Inoue, Ione. I think that's the way you pronounce it. I've tried 10 different times. So what I'm going to share my screen for a sec here. And what I want to do, if I can get it up there, is we're going to watch this. This is a little bit of Hunter, Ione, and Dara Foley. You had to say it was, yeah, well, listen to the comment.
You're saying you're going to knock out in one round. That's not respect. I mean, if you can take my right hand. No, but that's not respect. You can say that to some little bomb or some shit. A man that's been around the world 5 like me. Yeah, but at least keep it a little bit close to the truth. Keep it close to the truth. Yeah, but don't. But you have to. What you're saying, you got to keep it at least close to the truth. You can't just say all this fanciful bullshit. That's never going to happen. No. Say, do it something a bit more believable. Maybe. He's not going to see the final bell. The first round. Come on, man. You know I'm not that sort of man. You want to be in the center of the ring and bang it out? Let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, you say, from you. You're joking me. You're joking me. How could I ever run from you? Look at you, man. How could I run from you? Look at you. You brought that. Is this your team?
This is the bit I liked.
The little teenagers that keep giggling at me. Which one's your cut man? Which hands up? Who's the cut man? You? Have you ever seen a cut before? Who's gonna grab your hands? Who's the? Shut up! Come on, man.
Now, one thing I'll say there, I'll just get to this maybe so you can see me a bit better there. One thing I'll put a little bit of advice to Hunter: don't try and trash talk with someone like a Dara Foley, because he's the master. I don't know whether it's an Irish thing or whatever. Obviously, Conor McGregor's the master at it, but I think you got shown there, as I said before, to maybe stay in your own lane. He tried to do the whole trash talk, and I know he's got there and he's got the glasses on and he's trying to talk it up. He's in front of all the media. But one person I would not probably get into a bit of a slangy match with is Dara Foley. He's just got that Irish wit. He's always got a great response. Probably not a great idea to, as I said, go into that with Dara Foley, and he's just the master. And to hang shit on his cornerman, which is a classic Conor McGregor. Let's just see a little bit more about what he said.
We'll see. It's between me and you, right? Okay, we'll see. You get between me and you. You know what? You can say whatever you want to say. Yeah, you can. Just remember, you're gonna fight me on Wednesday. Yeah, just remember that. As long as you're good with that, okay. I mean, as long as you stay in the middle of the ring and bang with me, don't run away. Just don't fight me on Wednesday, and you're gonna atone for everything you've been saying. I'll fight you. So, Dara, that's what Marty said. He's knocking you out of the round of this.
I think we'll stop it there, but. Yeah, I think Hunter, he started going for the insults at the end, because that's a classic sign. You've lost the argument, and poor old Damon had to interject there. So Hunter, mate, again, just relax a bit there, talk it up, but don't get into a slangy match with Dara Foley, because you're going to lose. All right. Hey, we've got a good comment here. Who we got here? This is a name you might know. Look, Andrew Maloney. Looking forward to Foley in Ione. Going to be a fun fight. Certainly will, mate. It should be a ripper. We've got a little. You're actually on my list to talk about a little bit later. So if you're out there and you're watching, you want to throw Andy a question or comment, make sure you put it in there, because Andy will be happy to answer anything you might want to ask him. But I'm with you, mate. I think this is the fight I'm actually looking forward to the most. I think we know what we're going to get with Nikita Tszyu and Ben Horn. I think we know what we're going to get with Sam Goodman. I would think he will just put on a really good performance and break Alordo down and maybe win a decision. This fight only being a 6-round fight, anything can happen in this fight. One thing I can probably guarantee you is that Hunter will come out. He will throw bombs, because what he tends to do is, let's just say he's not the most conditioned fighter in the world. But he doesn't pretend to be. He's going to go out there, and Dara Foley's going to say, all right, young man, let's right in the center of the ring. They're going to probably put an X where it marks the spot, and it's just going to be on. And Hunter is going to throw bombs left, right, and center. Dara Foley, again, hasn't probably not known for his defense, I will say. Will probably take a couple to land a couple. And I think for the 2 or 3 rounds until Hunter gasses out, it could even be the fight of the year. So don't miss that one. So, yeah, I'm not sure what order it's in. I'm assuming it'll be before the Goodman fight and then obviously into the main event. But I'm with you, mate. That is the fight I'm looking forward to the most, because Hunter is very entertaining. I don't know if you haven't seen him fight Jacob NG, jump on YouTube if it's on there and check it out. He's a great fight. He drops Jacob NG with one of the best shots you'll ever see. Jacob NG went down like I thought he was dead. He got hit that hard and hit the canvas that hard. But to Jacob NG's credit, he got up and actually ended up the round, letting Hunter have a few. So, but as I said, Hunter's. He'll give all he's got for 2 or 3 rounds, and anything can happen. But the fact that 6 rounds, this will be a ripper. Shane, it could be fight of the night. As I said, mate, I'm with you. I think it'll be an absolute ripper. So we'll see. But keep the questions coming there, guys. What else we got there? So the rest of the card. We've got Michael Hall, Joel Taylor. This will be a really good fight. Michael Hall 8-1-1, Joel Taylor 7-0. Really good kid, Joel Taylor. I don't know much about Michael Hall, but Joel Taylor is a good young kid down there at Shadows Gym in Melbourne. Michael Hall, I think Tassie said last week he's seen a bit of him and he reckons that'll be a ripper. The other one, got 4 female fights on the card, which is 5 if you include the Hodges fight. Just kidding. But it is, so we've got Ashley Sims, Jessica Adams. Ashley Sims, you remember, fought Chanel Dargan in that, probably the fight of the year, men's or female, wouldn't matter, a couple of promotions ago. So she's fighting Jala Tomat. That'll be a good one. Kate McLaren, Connie Chan, and Angel Rushton. So Glenn Rushton's daughter, who's 1-0, will fight Ayesha Abied, who's 1-4. I mentioned Justin Hodges and whoever that guy is, Jordan Simi, apparently some sort of influencer or whatever. I don't know, never heard of him. And Jackson Murray and Parminder Singh. So they're going to fight over 4 rounds. So that's the card. So, look, I think, as usual, no limit, just do it better than everyone else. What I like about them is they reinvest all the money they get from sponsors and TV and everything else, and they put it into the card. And doing great things. And look, to that extent too, I will give credit as well to obviously No Limit, Dean L and Tasman Fighters as well, because they're doing the same thing. And it's really raised the bar for all the other promoters out there. And Ace Boxing do great shows. I see Wild Fighters starting to do good things. So, so it's a really good time in boxing. Got a question for Andrew. Not a question, but a comment. Andrew, next world champ, if Ioka gives him the shot. Yes. Well, Andrew, I'm not quite sure whether you saw our show last week, but we talked about Ioka, and he had the win. And we're just stoked that you're on the prowl of trying to get him in the ring for the WBO title. I've got no doubt if you get the shot, mate. I'm with Rowan here that I think no doubt there. So if you've got any goss on that, Andrew, and what your next move is, then make sure you put it in the comment section there. We'd love to hear what you're up to. No doubt you haven't stopped training since the Cambosis card. I know you and Jason well enough to know that you probably would have been in the gym the next day knowing you two guys. Actually, no, it would have been the day after. You would have been in the burger shop and the shake shop the next day, I would assume, and into the gym the day after. So, I'm with you, Rowan. Andy, definitely the next world champ. If he gives him the shot, similar with Jason, I think if he gets that shot with Butler, it's all over for Paul Butler, and we'll have yet another world champion. So again, just my opinion. So Andy, any news there, mate? Make sure you let us know in the comments there. And great, obviously, to have you watching. Great to have you tuning into the show. All right, guys. So that's the Nikita Zoo Ben Horn card. It's on Wednesday night on Foxtel. So if you've got Foxtel or KO, it's free. So if you can call it free. Everything costs money, of course, but so that'll be on. I think it's 7:30 on Wednesday night. So really looking forward to that one, and the card itself will be an absolute ripper. Right, we're going to get into the main point of tonight, and that is Australia's top up-and-coming fighters. We know was talking about Andrew there. We'll go over the guys first who have obviously been there or done that or about to do it. We've got there. Before I get into that, we've got Andy with a comment there. Thanks, fellas. Pushing hard to get the Ioka fight. Confident I can take that belt from him. Yep, mate. I think we're more than confident. I know best team in the business with Tony Tolge, Angelo Hyder, and obviously top rank behind you, mate. So we've got there's no dispute that when you get that opportunity, it's going to come your way. As I said, Jason as well. So, and I think I've said on the shows before, mate, full admiration to yourself and Jason, who no matter what the boxing world has thrown at you in the last couple of years, you've kept training, you've kept fighting, you've kept fronting up. going overseas for all your fights, fighting in front of no people, which would have been just very, very hard, fighting the best in the world and putting yourself out there. And two more respected fighters in Australia you will not find than Andrew and Jason Maloney. So all the best in that one, mate. All right, so on to the fighters. Now I'm going to start with the ones I'm just going to put a line through. Hang on, mate. We've got another question before I start there. Sorry, guys. Another question there. Can I ask, does the promoter pay for the camera crew and commentators on the non-Foxtel cards at a stream? All right. Now, the way it works, I'm in a really good position to obviously comment on this one because I've done about 25 shows my own. Now, on the non-televised cards, yes, the promoter must pay for cameras, the lighting, the you name it, they've got to pay for all this, and there's literally no money. And to put a bit of a value on it, for the lights and around the ring and a production crew, you'd be probably looking at $20,000. That's a lot of money to front up before you've even sold a ticket. So it's a massive amount, and that's why sometimes some promoters get a bit of a bad rap and they get shit on about the quality of cards, because sometimes you can only afford so much. So I put all the money into the main event and the rest of the card might not be of maybe the expected quality. That's why, because as I said, it's 20 grand before you start. Now, if you're lucky enough to have Foxtel behind you, then you're looking at about 120 grand. Now, that's a massive advantage to have over any other promoter. So that's why, as I said, credit to D&L and No Limit and Tasman Fighters, because they're investing that money back. So $120,000 or 125, I think it might be, and Foxtel will pay for the camera crew. They won't pay for the lighting, but they'll pay for the camera crew and commentators to do the fight. So it's a massive advantage to have. So technically, you might be $140,000 off, better off before you even start, and that's why you're seeing the type of shows we're getting now. So I think I've answered your question there. So the promoter pay for the crew and comment on the non-Foxtel cards, yeah. So that's why it's so hard with the non-televised cards, Shane, because the poor old promoters, I mean, you're lucky to get 1,000 people to an event. This is in Melbourne, I'm probably speaking about. I haven't done anything international, interstate or obviously internationally, but in Melbourne, probably lucky to get maybe 1,000, maybe a bit more at some of the bigger shows. But, do your sums. That's why the cards or the tickets are so expensive. That's why you're paying, $3,500, $4,000 for a table. That's why you're paying $100 for just a general seat. That's why. It's not the promoters trying to rip you off. It's simply because they just have to do it. What have we got there, Shane? So revenue, ticket, sponsorship, and bar. Yep. So you'll get the money out of the tickets, of course. Sponsorship can be really hard to get, I will say. The fighters tend to do okay. A lot of them get local sponsors to jump on, local businesses to jump on. Still not easy. Really hard to get good sponsorship as a promoter, because a lot of companies just don't want to be associated with boxing, unfortunately. The wheel has started to turn a little bit as far as that goes, but it's a tough ask to get sponsorship out there. And bar, yep, there's some good money to be made in that. You could make between $5,000 and $10,000 out of your bar for the night. I was pretty lucky on the shows I did because my business is liquor. So, and the venues I went to allowed me to have my own catering. If you go to some of the other venues in Melbourne, you pay them an upfront per head. So it might be $100 to $150, and that will be food and alcohol included. So, but when I did it, I would go to a venue that I had the rights to the whole catering and alcohol, so that my costs were basically halved as far as, or probably even more as far as the alcohol component goes. So some promoters might pay $50 to $60 as part of their per head for their package. I was probably paying $10 to $15. So it's a massive advantage. And if you've got 30 tables sold, what's that? 300 people times, $30 a head or $40 a head. There's $12,000 right there saved. So it's a big saving. So you've just got to chop and change. I know someone like Mine Intruder's got a massive advantage in Melbourne as well. Well, I won't say it's an advantage, but he's obviously got his own venue, so he controls everything. So it just depends on your situation. But most promoters, if they're renting a venue, yeah, you get your ticket, sponsorship, maybe bar, most often not, but maybe. And that's what you're relying on. So if you do the sums, it's not that hard to work out that there's not a lot of money to go around. And I see now Will Tomlinson starting to do a little bit. I did it at my start, doing it in regional centres. A lot easier to get the word out in the press, radio all over you, TV all over you, sometimes radio, paper, and sometimes TV. will give you plenty of exposure in those small country towns or large city country towns, wherever it might be. I did a few in Bendigo. I know Will's gone to Geelong and Sale and somewhere else in Gippsland. So, that's the way to do it. In Melbourne, you get 0 press, of course, if you're just doing a regular old show. So it's a little bit tougher. But in the regional centres, it just doesn't cost you as much. And wouldn't be hard to make a loss. 100% Shane, and I can tell you from experience, it is not hard to make a loss. I've made plenty of losses throughout the journey, but it is what it is. Early on, there was a few kicks up the arse, but you learn as you go. And that's why you'll probably find sometimes a new promoter starting out will have all the bells and whistles. They'll have the camera crew there. They'll have great fights on. They're paying top dollar to get fighters on, bringing fighters in from all over Australia, and it's all happy days. And then when you make your first big loss, it's like, oh, and then you see things start to cut back. So it's a tough gig. A lot of people just see the end result. They see a room full of people. They see it on there. Oh, geez, how good this? You must be making shitloads of money. You don't. It's very, very tough to make money unless you got the TV, because as I said before, you got $120,000 to start with. It's a pretty good start. All right, let's get on to the fighters now. So we're going to put a line through, of course, the current world champions we have at the moment. Jaya Patai, of course, IBF cruiserweight champion. Ebony Bridges, IBF bantamweight champion. Shanika Johnson, the IBF super bantamweight champion. And I'll tell you, before I move on, speaking of Ebony Bridges, plenty of discussion about my comments last week with the Shannon O'Connell thing. We'll go over more of that on our Thursday night show that comes out Friday morning. Quite entertaining. A lot of views on the videos, a lot of feedback. It was quite entertaining. And I'll keep the questions coming before we get into that. Big fan of the show. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Why are so many international fighters used on a lot of Aussie cards? I would have thought they would be more expensive to fly in, plus hotel, food expenses, etc. Look, mate, what sometimes happens is with international fighters, a lot of them they're actually international fighters, but they're based in Australia. So let's say it might be a Filipino fighter or a Thai fighter. They might actually be based in Australia. So they'll sort of get used by promoters on different shows. I don't like it because most of the time they're just the opponent. You will get some international fighters that will be flown in for a show, and provided they don't get stopped on the card, which does happen a fair bit, unfortunately, they might hang around for a couple of weeks and fight on another show in the state. But the other thing is, the main thing which I will say is why a lot of the same international fighters keep going back and forth all the time is because promoters have they might have an agent that they use, and that agent will have, say, it's the Alorde gym or the just trying to think of some of the other gyms. There's plenty out there, but whether it be Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Fiji is another one that's being used a lot lately. So they'll have their agents there, and they'll just, if they've got a really good fighter that just doesn't care, and they just want to jump on the plane and come over for a payday, they will get a lot of the fights. So it's just how easy it is. And look, it's a tough one, but that's pretty much it. I hope I've explained that right. If the same international fighter fights a lot, is either durable and the promoters like him to come and give their young fighter a good fight, or it might be a late replacement. You get a lot of those as well who are just there on standby. Fight falls over a week out, bang, they're on the plane. The odds are they've got the current visa, because they might have a 12-month visa if you apply straight away. So it's easy to get a visa so they can be on the plane within a couple of days. That's the other thing, because visas can take weeks. So that's what you might find. And sometimes, unfortunately, they're just an easy kill for the young fighters. And I hate to say that, because that is the case. They're just fighters that'll just put their hand up. Yeah, I'll come over and get knocked out in the first round. I think it's starting to change, though. Fight fans aren't stupid. We've put up with it for too long, and people are now starting to vote with their wallets, and they're not buying tickets to the events, or they're giving negative feedback on social media, or lots of different things. But you do find that has started to change a lot. And if they are coming from those parts of the world, you are starting to find that they can actually hold their hands up and go, okay. Mind you, they haven't come to win half the time, a lot of them, but they've come and they will put up a good fight. I think one thing is, though, is not to tar all the companies with the same brush. And a good example of that is this card here, the Alorde gym. The Philippines get a bit of a bad rap sometimes, but tell you what, you bring a Filipino over and they're going to give you a fight. This Alorde fighting Sam Goodman, he's there to fight, and he's a good fighter. So it used to be the Thais. Unfortunately, now we're starting to see it sort of go into the Fijians. The Fijians are almost the new Thais. I hate to see it. But they're tough boys too, the Fijians, don't get me wrong. But unfortunately, they just don't get the fights over there. They don't have the backing. They don't have the training facilities. They don't have the sparring. It's really tough for those guys over there. And but I will say before we move on, I've been moving on for about the last half an hour with the fighters. We're going to cover the young fighters. What I will say is that it's not necessarily always the promoter's fault. And again, it is changing. But in the past, a lot of fighters, I'm just getting a couple. What will happen is a lot of the Aussie fighters, they will not fight each other. It's as simple as that. I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of fighters just come up. They pad the records against these international guys. They won't fight a live opponent. They all got in their head that they're going to win some regional title. That'll get them world ranked, and they're going to make $1 million fighting for world titles. It doesn't work like that. And I think in the end of the day, as I said, fans start to turn off. Negative feedback comes around. The combat board starts to have a look at you as well. Lots of implications there. So, but yeah, I hope I've answered your question there, mate. There's a lot of intangibles that come into the fighters that are coming from overseas. And as I said, the good thing about it is we're starting to see less and less of those fighters coming in, just getting obliterated by the local fighters. I know there has been a couple recent shows I've seen that has been the case, but I don't think it's been a deliberate sort of act. And those promoters get called out really quick. All you got to do is jump on social media after those events, and you can see when people have their say. Those promoters are probably the ones you're now finding are just starting to just be sort of put to the wayside, and it's these new promoters that are coming in, investing in the shows that are starting to get the the followers and the crowds and everything else. Now, others are starting to fall away. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out the ones I'm talking about. So keep the questions coming, guys. I'm going to keep going on with these fighters as we go at the moment. But if you've got a question, put them in there, Facebook or YouTube. That's what I'm here for. It's your show. Keep the comments coming. Let's get on to the ones, as I said, we'll put through. Jai Patai, Anthony Bridges, Shanika Johnson are the current world champion. So that's great. The other one's on the cuff. So you've obviously got George Kambosos Jr., of course. You'll fight the rematch later in the year. You've got Tim Tszyu, of course, fighting January 28th in Vegas against Jamal Charlo. We've been over that. The Maloney boys we've just talked about as well. Put them to the side as well. They've been there and done that. Shannon O'Connell will get a chance again at some stage. And then Michael Zarafa, who's any old day now, should have an announcement about his fight as well. So they're probably the ones I'm putting aside. So they're probably the top shelf fighters, those guys. So they're the ones we're not including. These are more the up-and-comers that are on the way up. Now, before I do start, just a bit of disclaimer about this whole thing. This is not a popularity contest. So these aren't my favourite fighters. These are just the ones that I think are out there as the universally recognised as the best up-and-coming talent that we've got. Now, I don't know most of these guys. It's just my humble opinion. It's a really perfect way to have people attack you, whether it's their supporters or their fans or their family or their team or the fighters themselves, who might not be impressed about my opinion of them if they don't like it. But again, it's just my opinion. It's nothing personal. It's just where I see where they're at and whether they can go from here up to here. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to get into probably the ones that are probably just that one rung down from the fighters I spoke about. I'm going to talk about Liam Pyro and Brock Jarvis for starters. Liam Pyro, I'm a massive fan of Brock. Of Liam. He's a really, really good fighter. He is ranked number 1 by the WBO, but it's probably one thing I do like the way he's been managed. If you look at his record, his first 12 fights, he only fought one with a winning record. They're all designed to probably, obviously get his record up, but also just maybe to test him in different ways. But when he got to the 13th fight, that's when it really started to go, and he's had a really good block of fights since then. It started with Andrew Wallace back in 2018. A bit of a journeyman, but a tough journeyman. Good, tough fighter. Fought a lot of good fighters since then. He fought he's fought guys 11-0, 22-1, 22-5, 11-0, 11-1, 17-0. Even Terry Zuramanis, 23-4. Really good, durable fighter is Terry. Steve Gago, who's 12-1. And his last opponent was 20-0. That was his first international fight. So I think why he could probably wipe off the first part of his career or first half of his career. You got to remember too, a young guy, and he probably fell into that category I was just talking about before with the wins. First 12 fights out the way. Credit to him then and his team. Started to step it up, and he's gone up and up and up since then. So he's in a really good position to challenge. Do I think he should be ranked number 1 by the WBO? No. I don't think his caliber opponents probably warrant that. But it all works in weird and wonderful ways. Angelo DiCarlo has got an awesome job to do the right thing. They've obviously picked the WBO and gone down that track where they've obviously fought the right fighters at the right time and obviously paid the sanctioning fees and all that sort of stuff to get him in line. And all fighters do it at that level, whether it be the WBA, WBC, or IBF, or in this case, WBO. So they've targeted that. But having said that, yeah, they've done a great job in putting him in that number 1 position. And, hey, that's all you got to do is get in there. And he's there now. Now, I think I've said a few times in the past, his team would not be impressed that he's got to fight Brock Jarvis, but with Josh Taylor not giving up his belts, then he's got to fight someone. He may as well earn some good money fighting in his home country against a great young up-and-coming fighter in Brock Jarvis, who we'll get to in a minute. So can Liam Pyro go all the way? Absolutely. He's a really, really good fighter. You know, he's got all the tools. Southpaw style is slick. He can punch. Really good footwork, which is why I think he'll beat Brock Jarvis, by the way. So I think I'm putting him in that we'll call it the gold, silver, and bronze category. I think he's in that gold category where I think he can definitely win the title. And I actually think the Brock Jarvis fight's a really good interim fight for him until he gets that world title shot. I really do. Risky fight. Don't get me wrong. Very, very risky fight. But I think this fight will really hold him in good stead. Because Brock, even though he's not experienced, even though he's not, you know, really up there as far as ratings go at the moment, the kid is a really tough, hard, fit, well-conditioned, well mentally prepared fighter. And he'll give everything in the fight against Liam Pyro. So great fight for Liam to get that. So he's in my gold category, Liam. He can win a world title for sure. His opponent, Brock Jarvis, a little bit early to rate him as we speak, but we'll get a lot more indication about where he sits when he fights Liam Pyro. I think it's September. There's no actual date or venue announced yet. That's a different story, considering we're only about 8 weeks away from when they're supposed to fight. So Brock Jarvis, again, I think I'm going to put him in the silver category. If he beats Liam Pyro, obviously you'll probably go to gold, but at the moment, very, very unproven. I think looking at him just as he is, raw, he can punch. He's so probably one of the best conditioned athletes in the world, really, even at this young stage of his or infinite stage of his career. One of the best guys you could have in your corner in Jeff Fennick, prepares him both physically and mentally. Great sponsors, great team behind him, obviously Eddie Hearn. So can he win a world title? The jury's still out for me. As I said, it'll be more indication with the Pyro fight. I'll put him in the silver category as far as potential goes. I think he's got the potential, but at the moment, a little bit unknown. So, but a great young talent, great young guy as well. So looking forward to seeing that fight. Paul, great to have you in the chat there, mate. G'day, boss. Sorry I missed it most of this. Hope there's always been some good chat. Yep, always is, mate. We're just going through the up-and-comers. We've already been over Zoo, Charlo, Zoo, Horn, Crawford Spence, a few other bits and pieces, but this is we're just ranking some of the Aussie fighters. So again, guys, really want your opinion. So I've put Liam Pyro in the gold so far, Brock Jarvis in the silver. Let's move on to, this is a tricky one, Isaac Hardman. Now, he's a little bit on the cusp as well. You wouldn't probably call him a young up-and-comer. He's probably a little bit older. He hasn't had a lot of fights, of course, but he's probably been at the level a little bit quicker than some of the other guys have. So Isaac's a tough one to judge because if we're just judging him by the Zarafa fight, he ain't even on the podium. You know, he's out the change room somewhere. He's not gold, silver, or bronze. So, but I don't think we can judge him too harshly on the Zarafa fight because I think he learned a very, very valuable lesson and he learned it the hard way. And when I say the hard way, as I say, there's no hiding under the bright lights. He got in there. He was exposed. He fought the wrong fight. He thought that the way he probably knocked out a lot of those other guys, he could do that with Zarafa. Zarafa is a quality fighter. Been around the block a few times. He's not going to win a fight by walking in and probably not being as aware as he should have been. He got caught. Do I think he's got potential? Yes. Do I think he is capable of winning a world title? And I hate to say this because I know Isaac is a great guy. I've got to say no. I'm just being honest. I think he could maybe get in the position to be able to challenge for one, unless it's the right champion at the right time, under the right circumstances. I think he's in a, with the team behind him, he's got Dean L. I've got no doubt they'll put him in a position to get back in the ratings and get him an opportunity. But do I think if he got in there with one of the middleweight champions out there at the moment, obviously Triple G is the main one. And who knows what's going to happen. And Charlo's the other one, of course. Do I think he can beat those guys? No, I don't, unfortunately. So I've got to put, at this stage, Isaac probably in the bronze category. He is going to be on the podium, but he's got a lot of work to do to prove me wrong. So he would be bronze for me. Comment there. Might see an even stronger Brog up in weight. Yeah, well, Shane, the guy's a monster. I mean, I promoted him 4 or 5 years ago. Now, the kid was a bantamweight, which if you don't understand, we'll go in kilos because our audience here is mostly Australian. 54 kilos, or around about 54 kilos. Now, this fight's going to be at 63.5 or 64 kilos, whatever it is, or 63.5, I think it is. He looks about 73.5 at the moment, and he doesn't look like he's got a shred of fat on him. This kid could be like an Oscar De La Hoya and go right up to middleweight. He's just got the frame. He's built. I think he's going to actually look like the bigger fighter in there with Liam Pyro, which is just ridiculous considering that Liam Pyro has always been 3 to 4 divisions above him. So, yeah, I think people are going to get a shock at how well conditioned and how good at the weight Brock looks. And this is what, light welterweight? As I said, I'll be surprised if he ends up at junior middleweight, if not middleweight at some stage. He's just got that frame. And I think, again, with the reason why Jeff Phoenix probably unleashed him a little bit to get him to take this fight, I remember having a conversation with Jeff about 5 years ago when he was on our promotion, when he said, no rush, Brock's a young kid. I think he might have been 18 or 19 at the time. No fuss. We just want to get fights into him. And we just want the right fights, not stressed about what people think and what they're saying about it. We just want to get the fights into him. You know, get 20, 25 fights in him. Then we'll look to step him up, which is obviously what they're doing now. I've got a feeling they're going to say, all right, unleash the whole. Let's not worry about even the weight factor now. He's got the height. He's as tall as a middleweight or junior middleweight, whatever it might be. Let's just unleash him or whatever he's going to weigh. Let's make sure he's big, he's strong, he's fit, and he's ready to go. Because he's got that style where he needs to have that strength. He can't be balling down in weight when you fight the way he does. You simply can't. And the pace that he sets and the amount of energy he exerts and the amount of pressure he puts himself under and the punishment he probably takes in return, not so much flush, but just he takes a lot of shots, gloves, body, whatever, elbows. So he puts himself under a lot of duress, which is probably why I think they'd have no problem stepping him up and make him just big and strong and not having to boil down in weight. Just on Isaac Hardman, says he does the weight easily, but to me he looks a bit dry at the weigh-ins, mate. He doesn't make the weight easy. I think his process is great, but I would like to be a fly on the wall the morning of weigh-in in his apartment or his hotel room, whatever it might be. I think there'd be a fair bit of whether it be sauna or in the bath or shower, whatever they do these days to get the weight off. I think he does it perfectly, by the way. But all you got to do is look at the his social media the night after he weighs in. He might weigh in at 72 kilos, whatever it is, 72.3 or 4, whatever it might be. He's 10 kilos heavier that night. That is just ridiculous. 10 kilos or 10 kilos within a few hours. And then within a week, he's probably 15 kilos heavier than that. So the guy is big. So I don't think he does it easily, but I think his process is very, very good. And it doesn't really affect the way he fights. When he gets in the ring, he looks big, he looks strong, he looks ready to go. I know he has talked about maybe making super welterweight. He ain't making super welterweight. He ain't making that, I wouldn't have thought. But, I mean, look at him in the weigh, and he looks really drawn. But at fight time, it's almost like they put the pump in and away he goes. He just expands. So, but, yeah. So, look, who knows with Isaac what he'll get up to in the future. But I hope he gets another shot. But at this stage, I just really can't see it. The next one I want to get into is Stevie Spark. Probably a little bit higher on the list. There's probably others that are probably in front of him there, but I've put him on the list because I didn't rank him at all. This is not considering the Tim Zoo fight. I've just put that to the side because he took the fight on 2 weeks' notice or a week and a half notice, whatever it was, against a guy that was probably 6, 7, 8 kilos naturally heavier than him. And obviously the ability of Tim, you have to factor in as well. So look, but his couple of fights since then, I've been really impressed by the improvement that he's made. Obviously, got Brendan Smith up there, who's a really good trainer. So yeah, I think he's got the potential to maybe get in a position to maybe be in the rankings. Again, has the ability to actually win a world title? I'm probably putting him in the bronze category as well. I think he's got the ability to get around the mark. But if he does get a world title shot at this stage, I'm not quite sure he's got the ability to win it. But as I said, I've been really impressed by his last couple of fights. I think he's looked the goods, and he's improved a hell of a lot since before the Tim fight, which is what I'm sort of judging it on. Let's go to little brother Nikita Zoo. Now, this is an obvious question. Of course, he's got the ability to win a world title, but has he? All we've seen so far, he fought Adam Stahl in his first fight. Poor old Adam Stahl was just a lamb to the slaughter, unfortunately. Did pretty well to survive as long as he did. Nikita, I think you put that fight to the side and say, look, let's just get that one out of the road. Mason Smith was hard because he went at him and he had no choice but knock him out. He did actually take a couple in that fight as well, so he's still unproven. I am going to put him in the silver category for starters because, yeah, he's got the pedigree, but so far we just haven't seen anything. I remember seeing him as an amateur. He was a gun amateur. He's got all the ability in the world, but at the moment he's had 2 fights, about to be 3. So I'm going to put him in the silver category. Yes, looking at first sight, looks like he's got the ability, but we just don't know yet. So he's going for me. We'll put him in the silver. Could even be bronze, but I think he's ability-wise, he's probably above Hardman and Spark. So let's put him in the silver category. The next one, Liam Wilson. I'm putting him in. Look, it's probably a little bit contrary to popular belief out there. I'm still putting him in the silver category. And on his last performance, you might say we should be putting him in the gold. He's number 5 in the Oz boxing pound for pound now, which if you follow me on social media, you'll see I thought was an absolute joke putting him above Andrew Maloney, but that's a different argument. So based on that, look, his last fight was impressive, don't get me wrong, but I just think he's got a long way to go. He's a great kid. He's got all the ability in the world. He can box. He can punch. I really don't like the way he puts himself in a vulnerable position. He stands in the pocket too much for me. He puts his chin up in the air a little bit for me. He stands there. Doesn't use his natural attributes enough for me. He doesn't use his angles. But he's a good young guy, but he's got all the ability in the world. And I think if he can correct a few different things, I'm sure he will. He's still only a kid. I'm going to type in his record here just so I can see a little bit more about what I'm talking about there. So, yeah, look, he's 11-1. I think he learned a lot out of that fight with Noine. He came back like a true champion does and demolished Noine in the rematch. His fight with Rowetta, very, very, very impressive. Perfect fight at the perfect time. And I think, he's got all the ability in the world. But yeah, the jury's still out a little bit for me as far as whether he's got the ability to the ability he has, if that makes sense. But he's just got some other flaws I just would like to see him corrected before I put him on, the main podium there. So silver for me, really based on ability and that last win, but he's well on the way. So we'll give him a silver as well. Sorry, I'm going to go back to. Actually, we'll go to that. Hang on. Thanks, Shane. Yep, no limit, get an opportunity to put a stablemate on the Cholo card. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go back a bit. Sorry. Early days, 6 fights, Vegas Larfield. Yep, I've got him on the list as well there. Right, although I think, again, look, we can't put him anywhere near gold, silver, or bronze at the moment because he's just a kid, 6 fights. But I think what they'll do with him is what they've done with, as I said, with Brock Jarvis. They'll just keep feeding him the fights. I think he's only 18 or 19, whatever it might be. Really, really good young kid. Got all the skill in the world. Looks like he's always in good condition. He's got a really good team behind him as well. Good trainers. I think he's same trainer, obviously, as Liam Wilson, Ben Harrington. So I think all the ability in the world, but just way too soon to even judge him on anything. If you're looking at pure ability on what looks like to the natural eye, he's definitely a chance, but I really can't give him a rating, gold, silver, bronze just yet. Potential-wise, definitely gold, but it's hard to put him anywhere at the moment because he just hasn't had any fights yet. But what I do like about him, though, I haven't fed him, like a lot of young fighters that age, Thais or Filipinos or whatever it might be. They've actually given him some pretty durable opposition. Not saying they're world beaters or anything like that, but they're just good, tough, sort of fighters that'll give him the rounds. So that's one thing he's got at the moment is rounds. So getting back to Liam Wilson, look, I like the fact he's had the Francis Tszyu fight. Francis is nowhere near a world-class fighter, of course, but he's tough, he's durable, he's awkward. You've got to give these guys the ability to experience all different types of fighters. Not always going to have to fight the A-graders, but someone like a Tszyu, he's just a spoiler. He's all over you. It doesn't make you look good. And Liam did a really good job over him. Even guys like Jackson Woods is an Olympian. Rafal was a really big puncher. So he's had a few good fights along the line. But, I mean, he's only, again, had 12 fights. So I think he's got all the ability in the world. But I'm going to put him at silver at the moment. Just to get back to the other question, No Limit get an opportunity to put a stablemate on the Charlo card. Do they take Liam? Yeah, well, they might. It's a good point, actually, Shane. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, they'll even get that opportunity. I wouldn't have thought. It'll be all Charlo. He'll be ruling every decision that's made. Tim will just have to, a bit like what Devin Haney did when he came over to fight George Kambosos. He'll just have to say, yep, no worries, and do whatever they tell him. I don't think he'll hold any cards whatsoever. Who knows? Maybe, look, they've got to put an undercard on, don't they? So maybe they could ask the question, but yeah, let's hope so. It would be great to give even a couple of Aussie fighters an opportunity, or No Limit fighters an opportunity on there. Maybe it could be a Sam Goodman or one of these guys they put on there as well. That'd be great. Maybe they could match a Sam Goodman or Liam Wilson against, Charlo's team's fighters as well. So who knows? But would be good. But as I said, if Charlo's team don't want it, then it ain't going to happen. What do we got? Let's get on to the next one. I think I've covered Liam Wilson there. Let's get on to Sam Goodman, who we've just talked about before. This guy, Goodman, probably falls into the category for me of Liam Wilson, I would think. Very, very similar fights. I'm just going to go to, where are we, the schedule there? Sam Goodman, 11-0. So he's had one less fight than him. But I really like the opponents I put him with. He's probably, again, his first 3 or 4. Actually, he was third fight. He fought a guy that was 7-0. So not quite sure what ended up of him. He's fought some pretty good guys. Even he fought a guy who was 33-30, but hadn't been really stopped many times. That was Noldy Manor-Kane. So that was just an experienced fight. Nort Beauchamp, good little fighter. I'll give you some rounds. Richie Mepranom, I think you can pronounce it there. So, and his last fight against Fuzi, who was the Japanese opponent, and this guy Lordo. So I really like the way they're bringing him along. Really, really good promotional or management from No Limit. The way they're putting out there. So to put him on a pedestal, way too early at the moment. Even though he's had the same amount of fights as Liam, I'm putting him in the bronze category at the moment. A lot of potential there, but might change after he gets a few more fights like this Alorde one. But I just think at the moment, bronze, lots of ability, but I just want to see a couple more fights from him before we put him up. So bronze for Sam Goodman. Let's move on to the heavyweights. Justice Huni. I think gold for me, and I know that's a bold statement considering he's had 5 or 6 fights. I think ability-wise, the team behind him. I just think, as I said, even though he's only had the 6 fights, wherever it's been, I just think he just ticks all the boxes. Yes, power might be something you consider, but I'm one of the people who thinks you don't need to be a big puncher to be an elite fighter, even at heavyweight. You need to have a bit of a whack, but I just think he's got volume of punches. His work rate will be enough in a lot of those fights as well. A lot of those, even the world ranked guys at the top level. I mean, I watched Derek Chisora last week. Not to say Justice can take him right now, but guys like him that just like to plod and hold and wrestle and throw 1 or 2 and hold again. Someone like Justice, when he gets the fights under his belt, that he will just absolutely slaughter those guys with his work rate. I mean, he'll throw 5, 6 punches at a time, where most heavyweights will throw 1, maybe 2. So that's why I think Justice Huni's got all the ability in the world. He's not the biggest heavyweight in the world. That's probably the one thing I might say against him. But Usyk has showed you don't need to be a big heavyweight. And Usyk's not a real big puncher either, especially at heavyweight. And he's shown what he can do. So I'll probably put Justice Huni in that category that I think potential-wise gold, ability gold. And I think when he actually gets those fights underneath him, he does step up. I think he'll be more than capable of getting in line to fight for a world title and winning a world title. That's not just fighting for it, but winning it, or a version of it. I think Justice Honey's got all the ability in the world. So I'm putting in the gold that he definitely can win a world title. Sam's great to watch. He boxes beautifully. That's Sam Goodman. Yes, Shaney. Yeah, look, he's probably, as I said, he's very similar to Liam Wilson, but I just want to see more. That's why I put him in the bronze at the moment. But as I said, he's got the right team behind him. Hoodie, solid gold. Yeah, I don't think you can deny the fact that he's got all the tools in the world, and he will. I got no doubt he'll fight for a version of the world title at some stage. And if it's having the DNL team behind him, I think he definitely will be in a position to win it, and will win it if he gets a chance. So, Justice Hoodie, great young fighter, gold for me. Harry Garside. Now, this is an interesting one. I get asked about Harry a fair bit. Now, it's a little bit hard to rank Harry because it's still a little bit of the unknown. I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far. Guys, you're not going to get many more gifted fighters than Harry. Not a big puncher, which is a little bit for me. But as I said before, you don't necessarily have to be a massive puncher. Floyd Mayweather wasn't a massive puncher. He got by on technique and skill and everything else. So I think Harry, look, I'd like to see a bit more. Again, he's only had a handful of fights, but I'm probably going to put him again in the bronze category for the time being. I just need to see a bit more, probably a little bit early for Harry. But again, he's got a great team behind him in No Limit, of course. So he will get every opportunity in the world. But I just think at this stage, the jury's still out a little bit on him for me. Still very much fights like an amateur. Love the work rate, though. Love his conditioning. He's a very confident young guy, so I'm sure that he's got capabilities. But at the moment, I'm going to put him on the bronze level at the moment. But a great problem we've got with all these guys, they're all sort of silver and bronzes. Great position for Aussie boxing. The next one I'm putting in there, and I was a little bit like that, was Dana Coolwell. He has lost a couple of fights. Both fights could have gone either way, though, I will say. So it's a tough one. I'm probably not putting him on the podium at the moment. I just think he's got a long way to go. Technique, ability-wise, he's very talented. But yeah, I don't know. I just a little bit too early for me. I like the fact they've brought him back to more the prelim type of fighter rather than being up in lights as the main event. Take the pressure off him, get a few more fights into him. So I'm interested to see how he goes with that one. But Dana looks like a good young kid. So the jury's again still out, but at the moment, not really on the podium for me. Last one of the guys I'm going to put up until I throw it to you guys if you've got someone else. Is Jason Whiteley. Now, there's talk that he's being in the mix to fight Joe Pataya. Look, there's probably no easy way to say it, but look, I'm sorry, I just don't see it. Hasn't fought anyone remotely resembling a world-class fighter at the moment. I'm just going to bring his record up here so I don't look like an idiot while I go through his record. The fact that he's ranked number 10 in the IBF at the moment really highlights what's wrong with professional rankings at the moment. Jason has had 10 fights. Now, he's fought the same guy twice in Victor Oganov, who, best days were probably 10 years ago. He's fought a lot of Fijians. And I really can't see. He's fought Daniel Russell, I suppose, and Aaron Russell. But apart from that, the opposition has been probably mediocre at best, I will say. So he's really hard to judge. I don't put him on or anywhere near the podium, to be honest. He's a lovely guy. He can definitely bang. But if he gets him a Jaya Pataya, especially unless he has another 5 or 6 fights in the meantime, and I don't think that's the case. I think they're going to try and probably rush that through, I would think. Knowing Dean Lottingham, I wouldn't be surprised if they try and do it early next year, even if Jai's first fight back. They'll try and get him in there. Try and get Jai another 1 or 2 fights so his record looks half respectable, and then they'll chuck him with Jai. I don't think he wins a round against Jai. I think Jai absolutely boxes his ears off. Just purely an Aussie sort of money grab for me. And look, as I said, Jason's a really good guy, but I'm just calling a spade a spade. I don't think he's really at the world level yet anyway. And I think he's a long, long way from being in a position, I think, to win a world title. So unfortunately, I'm not putting Jason on the podium just yet or anywhere near it. Just want to look at a couple of girls out there as well. We've got Beck Hawker. Now, she's actually fighting for a version of the world title in September, October, I think it is. I'm not exactly sure I'll just check on BoxRec and see whether she's actually had it penciled in yet. Now, she's only had 5 fights, so I'm assuming it's not sure it's going to be a rule version of the title, whatever it might be. But I like her. She looks good as far as her style goes. She's hard as nails. She comes to fight, loves dishing it out, very well conditioned. So I'm not sure. I'd have to probably see who she's in with next to see whether she's a chance or not. But a little bit early with 5 fights. But potential-wise, definitely. I think I'll put her right up there. Put her in the silver category at this stage. I think she's definitely got the ability to fight and win for a world title. And the other one I want to mention is Taylor Robertson. Really good young prospect as well. She got in there with Shannon O'Connell after, I think, only 4 fights, I think. So credit to her for getting in there. Might have been 3 fights. I'm not sure. So good on her for getting in there and giving Shannon a really good fight. Shannon obviously won the fight, but props to Taylor for getting in. I think she's had 2 or 3 fights since then. Let me have a look. I'll type in her record. Taylor Robertson. And she was a really good amateur as well. She had a lot of amateur fights. So Taylor's had 7 fights. She's 6-1. She actually fought Shannon in her 4th fight. So a really good effort to give Shannon a really good fight. And Shannon lost by a split decision too. So she's had 3 fights since then. A really good win over Kylie Fulmer. Sarah Higginson, we saw Shannon O'Connell make light work of her, but still she got some good rounds in, and Jocelyn Fernandez. It was just a good fight for her at the stage she's at. So no problems with that one. And I think I'd probably put Taylor at silver as well. I think she's in a really good position to fight for and win a world title at some stage. So I think I've covered everyone there, guys. Look, keep them coming. You've got any fighters in there that I've missed? And again, I don't want to disparage any of these guys. I've got full respect for them. They're the ones out there. I'm not doing it. They are. But I'm just ranking about where I want. Because what I will say, and I probably should have said this at the start, unfortunately, we all, as fight fans, or a lot of fight fans, get sucked into, they look at the social media sites and they see these guys or girls and they're racking up the wins and they're getting the belts and, oh, how good's these fighters, and they get ranked in the top 15. Oh, this is great. These guys must be world-class fighters. But the reality is, if I can get it out, the reality is we might have a ton of fighters ranked in the top 15, but the reality of it is we might only have 3 or 4 that are actually capable of winning world titles. And that's on top of the ones that are either world champions at the moment or, as I said before, the O'Connells and Maloney's and Zarafas and Camboses and Zoos that are right on the cusp. These are the ones that are coming through. So don't get misled by... You get the guy on social media, I've won the WBA Oceania title and I'm now ranked in number 14 in the world, and how well am I going? Just because you're ranked in the top 15 doesn't mean you're a top 15 fighter. That's the reality of it. And that's something you probably won't see on a lot of these boxing sites out there. Because a lot of them don't tell the full story because they want interviews with these guys. They have relationships with them. They might know them personally. They're too scared. And I know a lot of these guys as well, but one thing we've always said on this show is we're not going to sugarcoat it. It's just not the way we do it. So I'm happy to debate or discuss it with anyone. But that's my my spin on it. What have we got there? Andy, yes, good call, mate. I'm glad you're still watching. There's not an up-and-comer, but thoughts on Paul Fleming. Yeah, sorry, mate. I should have probably had... He was one of the ones that had an asterisk beside as far as being on the cusp. Now, he's not really at your level or a Tim Zoo or obviously Camboses, but he's also not at a Liam Wilson. Actually, before I go there, I forgot to mention at the start, I did cop a little bit from people's my 5 fights I want to see last week. I had Liam Wilson against Dana Coolwell, and everyone said, well, you've missed the obvious one is Liam Wilson and Paul Fleming. And I must admit, it just went straight over the top of my head. I forgot about Paul. He's a great fighter. Look, I would think that Paul is in the silver category. I really think, but time's running out. Time is definitely running out. He's definitely in that category of being on the cusp. I think all he needs is the opportunity. He's fighting a lot more regular than what he used to. He was obviously on the scrap heap for a long time, through whether it be injuries or changing trainers or promoters or whatever it might have been to keep him on the shelf. But he's back. He's now with DNL. They're going to get right behind him, so he's going to get opportunities. So I think he's definitely got the ability to fight for and maybe win a world title. I won't put him in the goal to say will win, but definitely got the capabilities to be in the mix. He was a gun amateur. He's had a really good career. As a pro, I'm going to bring his record up here. And if you're watching, Paul, I apologise because I always tend to forget about you when I'm doing top 10s or fights I'd like to see, or in this instance, this one. So Paul's 28-0-1. So this is the time for him. His last fight was back in March. He beat Jackson Don England, which was a really good fight. He's had a win over Tyson Lantry. I was really disappointed the fight with Bruno Tarimo didn't go on further. If you can remember, finished in the third round with a cut eye to Fleming. That would have been a really, really good fight to go. And I'm a little bit disappointed they didn't probably try and match them up after that. That was, a year and a half ago, that one, back in 2020. And Bruno's another one who's come over. I think Andy, he trains with you. Looks like he's another great guy having the team as well. So I'm sure he'll get his opportunity as well. But yeah, so before that, he was very inactive. So he fought Jackson early in the year. He fought Tyson Lantry in March last year. So that's been 15 months. Before that was Bruno. But before that was a 2-year layoff. Before that was a 1-year layoff. So he'd really struggled to keep up appearances. But as I said, he's 28-0-1 now. Now is the time. And I'm really glad that he's hooked up with Paul Fleming. He's not sort of jumping from show to show or promoter to promoter. He's now signed with DNL. I think I said DNL, sorry. He signed with them, and apart from side with No Limit, of course, along with them, couldn't have asked for a better team to be with. So I'm sure he'll get his opportunity if he does. As I said, I think he's really got a chance. And sorry, mate, you did say Bruno. Sorry, mate, Bruno Tarimo, super bantamweight. Yeah, well, you know him better than what I do, mate. Is he capable of winning a world title? I'm not. I probably can't give an opinion. I haven't probably seen enough of him. But if he's up there holding his own with you guys, then why not? Really, and you've got to admire fighters like Bruno who've pretty much packed up their lives and moved across the other side of the world, left the family at home. You know, he's gone all out and joined obviously one of the best teams in the business. Geez, what an environment to be training at up there with Angelo Hyder and of course the Maloney boys up there. Could think of worse gyms to train at, I will say. So yeah, as I said, mate, you're probably in a better position than me to let us know whether he's in a position to win a world title. Now he actually, I want to bring up his record for a sec. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, he did fight. There it is. He fought about 6 months ago in England. So he lost a 12-round decision against Zalfa Barrett. He's had another couple of losses. Bilal did, but I think he also beat Bilal. But look at the fighters he's beaten. He's come to Australia. He's beaten Joel Brunker, Nathaniel May, who's another one we could probably put on this list as well. Had the fight with Paul Fleming, which was really disappointing. Didn't go further. And then Kai McKenzie, apart from this English fight. So look at those fights there. Brunker, May, Fleming, McKenzie. And hasn't lost to any, and Bilal Dib, of course, and hasn't lost to any of them except Bilal Dib, and he'd obviously beat him before that. So that's a great record. Obviously, before that, he was fighting. Where's he from? Tanzania. So what have we got there? So this is from the best source in the business. I think you can definitely count at super bantamweight. Got stuck at super featherweight because he kept beating. He did. When you look at those fights that he fought those guys at, he fought Joel Brunker at super featherweight. He fought Nathaniel May at super featherweight, Paul Fleming at super featherweight, and Kai McKenzie at super featherweight. And before that, I think he's fought, although he has been sort of featherweight, but now his last fight was at super featherweight as well. So he's going down to super bantamweight, which is 122. So he's going down about 3.5 to 4 kilos. So yeah, it's an interesting one. So let's hope he can, mate. Yeah, as I said, full respect to Bruno for moving to the other side of the world and giving himself every chance to get the win. I don't know what I've got on my shirt there, by the way, on this side, is it? Sorry, guys, I've got a bit of dog slobber there or something. All right, guys, that's almost about it. One other thing I want to ask your opinion about. What do you think of Jaya Pattaya fight and Robert Whittaker? Hang on, before we got there, Susie Q was back thoughts. Did you see? I'll get to that in a sec. What do you think of, Jaya Pattaya maybe fighting Robert Whittaker? I hope that doesn't happen. I know I can understand if there's money involved, but Carl and Jai, don't go down that track. Robert Whittaker is a great UFC guy. I've seen him use hands. He's got no chance using his hands at all. I think Jai wins that fight so easy. It's ridiculous. He's got the size on him, not to mention ability and boxing skills and everything else. I don't want to see it. However, it does happen, then good luck to Jai if he makes a couple of $1 million out of it. But let's hope he doesn't go down that track. So interested to hear what you guys think. Now, Paul, Susie Q is back. Thoughts? Is she back? Paul, let me know who she's fighting. She's been very hit and miss for the last. I'm going to bring her record up in a sec here. So she's not been very active at all. She hasn't fought for over 2 years. Although there it is. She's fighting in August at Melbourne Pavilion against Tomoko Okuda, who's 7-3-2. So a comeback fight. Before that, she fought Gretel De Paz, who I know very well. I had her over to fight Shanika Johnson 4 years ago. Yeah, I don't know much about Okuda, mate, but let me know. Great to have her back. I would really like to see Susie fight a Taylor Robertson, or better yet, Shannon O'Connell. I think that would be awesome. I would think. I don't think she's in a position to fight for a world title again these days, although who knows? I think Susie needs to align herself with a bigger promoter. She needs to do what Shannon O'Connell's done and aligned herself with No Limit. She needs to get with someone to get behind her. Susie's jumped a lot from promoter to promoter over the years, and unless she jumps in with someone that can get behind her, I don't think she's got any big fight sort of left in her. So why not fight a Shannon O'Connell, or who might still be a little bit big, or as I said, a Taylor Robinson could be a good fight as well. So we'll see. Did you see I am now a level 1 Boxing Victoria accredited coach? I didn't know that, mate. Congratulations on that. If you don't know what that is, that's the first step, to be able to corner fighters, young fighters in the corner. So good on you, Paul. We need more trainers out there. So good on you, mate. And hopefully you get a few fighters under your belt soon. So, guys, unless we've got anything else, I think that's about it for me. That was all the fighters. As I said, gone through all the young up-and-comers. If I've missed someone, by all means, let me know. And don't forget to look out on Friday morning for Boxing Deep Dive. We'll have a full review of the Nikita Zoo Ben Horn show. We'll obviously preview any other fights that are coming up, and anything else that's going on boxing, we'll let you know about it. The Dream Fight's out now. Oscar De La Hoya, Canelo Alvarez, a ripper fight. So check that one out. And the classic fight, I think, was Mike McCallum and who was it? James Toney from last week. And I can't remember who we've got this week, but it's another ripper. So what have we got there? All right, mate. Guys, thanks very much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And, yeah, we'll see you next